Okay, here we go. Oh, I see we've got some people already on there. Morning, everybody. Okay, let me adjust. And I'm actually, I'm actually really excited about today. And of course, we're early, just waiting for everybody to show up. So, I am, well, yikes. I am pretty excited because I figured out a lot of stuff. Uh, Yikes. I'm just trying to figure out why I can't scroll down and see. Okay, maybe I'll have to look on here. Okay, so hello Paula, let's see. Hello Sherry. Uh oh, good. Okay, just checking everything. Okay, back to what I was going to say. So, I'm just so excited because I really figured out that whole needle thing. Wow, I spent like 3 hours on it yesterday. And looking back, probably if I was doing it myself, I may have, as I got started, going, okay, now I know what to do. I'm just going to start this whole thing over. But obviously, we're doing a class, and I think it's better that you see how I worked through all these problems. And it hi, Carrie. And it may sound really goofy to everybody, but I actually woke up in the middle of the night thinking about it. I was just super excited about showing everybody how I figured this problem out. And this one was a doozy. So I'm excited. Let's see. Oh, and another Carrie. Hi from Australia. Hello. So I'm just excited to show you. So I can't wait till everybody else jumps on and then we can go over it. So I was looking on my Facebook group, and of course this will be a replay, so everything that I'm mentioning here, it'll be as a watch. Somebody had posted that they had painted on 140 pound, and boy, trust me, what I did last night, you will not be able to do on 140 pound. It's just too thin of a paper to really kind of rework it and do a lot of scrubbing and repainting. So, and I'll talk about that a little bit again. And okay, now Sherry Ward is saying we always learn so much more from our mistakes. Oh my gosh, it is so true. And hopefully, I tend to be a very vocal person, and I share a lot of my feelings, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but yesterday it crushed me a little bit that I was struggling so much with that, and I just felt inadequate, and I know I had talked a little bit about it, but my gosh, we are all just so hard on ourselves. And I remember I can't remember who had said this, but she was scared. She's like, sometimes I'm scared to start some things, or I'm scared to attempt this particular painting. And it's like, even if you're scared, just try it. Honestly, what's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is you have to flip your paper over and you have to start it again. And you know what? If you paint on 300 pound paper, you can paint on both sides. I've talked to Arshes, and I know a couple other companies are the same. It doesn't matter. Even if you're scared, just do it. Imagine if I hadn't have gotten enough courage to finally start doing these. I wasted months just finding excuses why I couldn't do these live streams. Why? Because I was completely petrified. I'm like, I'm not one of these 20-something streamers. How am I going to figure all this out? I feel so old school sometimes that that fear stopped me from finally just doing this. And you know what? Now I'm doing it, and I'm making mistakes, and there were a couple of doozies when I first started streaming, and I didn't link I didn't link the URL to YouTube, and I just realized it's okay. People forgive you, you move on, and you learn. And even though my stomach still gets a little bit nervous every time I start a live stream, every single time I live stream now, I'm feeling better. It's starting to feel natural and okay. And is there going to come a time when maybe the internet drops and we all drop off? You know, I feel like I'm okay now. I can take a deep breath and I'll be able to restart it, and everybody will pause for a moment and then be able to we can go on from there. So stuff happens and you just have to move on, and it's all okay. And trust me, I'm learning right along with everybody else. So yeah, okay, so let's see. Oh my gosh, Terry's from South Africa. Wow. Greetings to you two, and I'm saying good morning because it's obviously almost 8 o'clock here in the morning. I'm imagining South Africa, trying to think of what time zone. Obviously, it's going to be a little farther than, say, the time zone that England is in, but I imagine it's nighttime there, so wow. Thanks for joining me, if it is the evening. Oh my gosh! Shannon! My friend Shannon's on. Morning! Oh, I'm so glad you're joining. And Smitha from India. This is so exciting. I know there are a lot of bad things about technology, but one of the wonderful things about it is how great is this that India, South Africa, England, just wherever you're at, we can all join in at basically the same time. And I just think that's amazing. Wow. It's just crazy that we can all do that. So I just starting to realize that how lucky I am that we even get to do this and I get to share this. This is really the best time in my life, honestly. I mean, you know, I'm not getting rich, but I'm happy and I'm sharing my art, and all this is just so wonderful. So hopefully you don't feel like I'm just blabbering. I'm just feeling really good this morning. I figured out that problem with the needles, and we're going to get started on that here shortly. So I just thought, yeah, it's morning. We can just chat a little bit. You guys can let me know how you did, other than I saw some of them. But Smitha, true technology is great. Yes, it is. Oh my gosh, and there's Diana from Sun City. And yes, it is great that we can all join from around the world. And my opinion doesn't matter much. You know, we're all just doing our best to get up in the morning and accomplish the day. But I just really hope that everything that has been going on with social media, maybe it's just because we're all in our infancy with that and we're finding our way. But I hope, you know, maybe in 10 years, all the bad stuff will be gone and we'll just be left with focusing on all the good that technology can bring us. And boy, just imagine where we're going to be in 10 years. And it'll probably just be you press a button and we're all right in each other's living room. So it's all good. So does anybody have any questions? Maybe about paper or any struggles if you did attempt it. I know, again, that some people had posted on my Facebook group, and so I did get to see some things that people had started, but I'd like to see some questions. Obviously, we're on a delay, and so I'll wait a few seconds for you to see what I just said and then post some questions, and then that'll take a few seconds for me to see. But I really hope that some of you are joining me next week for the P&E. Instead of going through YouTube, it's going to go through Zoom, and I'm pretty excited about that. And I know I said this yesterday and probably the day before, but Zoom is really nice because we can all see each other. You can ask questions as I'm painting, audio-wise, or you can type in a question. Some people aren't quite comfortable with their screen on Zoom, and that's okay too. You don't have to have your screen showing, but as we're painting, you can hold up or face down and say, Debbie, look at this. What do you think? What have I done? What can I correct? So Zoom is really, really great for that. And I have been doing Zoom with a couple of lovely ladies, and we had a great time. It just felt like, kind of like the way workshops were 10 years ago. It almost felt like we were in a room together. So I was pretty happy with that. And okay, so let me look down. And Carrie, it's almost 2 o'clock in the morning in Australia. Woo! My gosh! You're dedicated. So this is kind of off the subject, but every time there's going to be a meteor shower, my husband and I are like, woohoo, yeah, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. We're going to get up, we're going to watch it. Snoozing, 5 o'clock in the morning comes around, we're like, oh, we missed that. So I'm impressed. Nice dedication there. And okay, so let's see what Diana says. Your sharing of using 3 colors finally hit home when you were deciding what to use to correct. How do you decide which 3 colors to use? I love the Nickle Azo Yellow, the M gram. It's an amazing yellow. Yes. And if you all had seen the testing that I did, it took a lot to find 3 other companies that actually carry the Nickle Azo Yellow, PY150. And so I kind of did a comparison. Winsor Newton has one, and they call it transparent yellow. And it's about equal to M gram. And then Schminke does one. I thought it was frankly awful. It was really brown, and it just didn't look very good. But M gram still is my favorite. It's just beautiful, glowing, transparent yellow. It gets darker in thicker concentrations, and it's the yellow I always use. And so Diana was asking about switching out, and I'll keep talking about this as we're going along, and I'm looking at time. It just all depends on how I see those colors. Are the reds a little bit warmer? And if so, I'll probably use Quinacridone Rose. Are those reds a little bit cooler? Then I'll use Quinacridone Magenta. Same with the blues, depending on if they're cooler or they're warmer. And when I get a chance, I am actually going to be doing a watercolor, a masterclass, where we really do a deep dive into using 3 color palettes, looking at the different palettes and seeing how and why I would be using that. And trust me, it's not going to be technical. It's all going to be just, here's what I see, and here's why I use this. So let's see what Shannon has to say. So excited about your Zoom class, and I'm proud of you for adding this to your repertoire. Thank you, Shannon. Yeah, it's I actually prefer it. I know I just said this a few minutes ago, but I prefer it to YouTube. It's just a little bit easier, and I like it. I like being able to see everybody so we can all kind of talk together. And another good thing. So a few days, right when I was doing the first live stream, what was that? Wednesday. Everything kept, it would freeze. Well, right before I started live streaming, my program, it's called OBS, it said, hey, there's an update. And I was like, I don't want to update anything right now. What if something goes wrong and I'm getting ready to live stream? So I left it alone. And yesterday I updated it, and no freezing. Oh my gosh. So yeah, technology. But you know, sometimes you'll update something and then, oh my gosh. So the last thing I wanted to do was update that before I started. So, yeah. Uh, technology. Sometimes I just want to cry, but then, like I was just saying earlier, it brings people together. And when it's used in the right way, it really could make the world a better place. At least a happier place, I think. Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes before we're really ready to start. And going back to those colors that Diana was asking about. So the fact that I, most of the time, pretty much always use three colors. And again, every once in a while, if I have a really complicated still life that I'm doing, you know, I might add, you know, two blues, or I might add two reds, like the warm and I might even go with, say, the Quinacridone rose and the magenta, and maybe leave it with the one blue and, of course, my Nickle yellow. That being said, what I had done for everybody to clear up a little bit of confusion over what, you know, the color name, the PY150, what the numbers mean, what the names mean. I had actually taken, I think it was Quinacridone magenta, my Nickle yellow, and I think it was the phthalo blue. And I went around and I found 4 companies of each that did that particular pigment, and I did a test, and I posted them all, and you can get them off my downloads underneath each tutorial. And then I have no idea what I did, but I lost the actual original that I did so that I could just hold it down. So now I'm gonna have to print them out so that you can see the difference. But yeah, I have no idea what I did with that. Thank goodness that I obviously scanned them, and what I'm going to do is, as soon as this live stream is over, I'm going to put them in the downloads underneath the video, and they'll also be, I'm pretty sure I have it on my website. So if you want to look at those, just download them, and then you'll be able to see the different companies and how, depending on how they process that particular pigment, that is going to it's going to be different from each company. Each company has their own additives, so by the time they start putting in, whether it's honey, gum arabic, all these different things, it kind of changes a little bit what those pigments end up looking like. So I wish companies would be a little bit more transparent about things like this, but they're not. And so again, I want to do a big masterclass on from start to finish, and so really do a deep dive in everything that I've learned and then share it with you. So okay, let's see. Hopefully I already said this. Barbara, good morning. And Diana, updating software is important. OBS is a good and free software. I retired from IT help desk in December and we used it. Ah, Diana, you're my new best friend. Oh my gosh. Okay. Maybe you shouldn't have told me that, because I want to ask you some questions. My goodness. Wow. So you were IT help. My goodness, you must know a lot of stuff. So I definitely might be asking you some questions. And thanks for the clarification on the colors. You're welcome. And before I get to something that Shannon just said, I know sometimes I probably go on a rant about this, but watercolor manufacturers, they want you to buy a lot of colors. And that's why they don't use the chemical name. So you have the pigment ID number, and then you have the chemical name. Well, they don't want to use that. How boring does that sound, right? To use nickel, azomethane, blah, 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 blah. Well, that doesn't sound fun. It sounds better to say glowing unicorn yellow. Well, you're going to go, oh, look at that color. Oh my gosh, I just have to have that color. So you buy it. And they do that with everything. And obviously they're trying to sell paint. And so those marketing people, they like to come up with the most lovely sounding names, you know, flamingo pink. Wow, you're really going to go for that, right? So I try to do away with even talking about marketing names, but it's the way they are, and you really have to sift through all their marketing jargon and really get down to using single pigment colors that are transparent, that are staining, and that are permanent. And I'll talk a little bit more about that today. And oh, good, we're about ready to get started. So let's see, Shannon. I showed up for a live class with just my 3 colors. Unfortunately, it was a landscape, and with a 3-hour class, it was taking too long to mix for me to keep up. I was sad. I'll get there. Yeah, you know, it is really hard to keep up with teachers sometimes. You know, we're kind of past when we first started, and I have to even stop, take a breath, and go, try to remember what it was like when you were first learning. And it's true, we need to all try to slow down a little bit. And again, sometimes it's easier to just watch it again, and then as you paint, pause it. Unfortunately, you can't pause live streams, so. And Diana, ask away. I'm always happy to help. Yay! Thank you, Diana. Oh, technology. I had to learn, my gosh, editing, so many things. You would not believe all the things that I have and the equipment I have. It's craziness. And the IT part is always just, it's pulling teeth for me to have to learn it, but you have to learn it, so. And Melissa, hi from Colorado. Hi, Melissa. Good morning. And I've just been chatting away here. So everybody, if you want, you can rewatch if you've missed all the chatting I've been doing for, say, the last half hour. Yep, it's available as a replay. So I'm going to take another drink of my coffee and get ready here to focus face down so that we can talk about what I did to fix all those needles. And Shannon, I wasn't passionate about the subject matter. It wasn't teacups and lace. Beautiful flowers, etc. Yeah, sometimes it kind of has to be something that you're interested in. And Diana says, you're doing great. So glad to have it recorded as I missed live yesterday. Oh, that's okay. Yep, you'll be able to go back and fast forward if you've got it, you know, stop and rewind. So yeah, again, that's great that we have that. Okay, so I am going to go face down, and so you can see what I've done. Okay, now this is a huge improvement from when I ended yesterday. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to talk you through everything I did. Here's what's really goofy. I don't know why I didn't film it while I was doing it. Okay, so if you remember yesterday when I pulled the masking fluid off, everything was like really, it was just awful. It just looked like lines on there. And you know, I had attempted to do some of it, and I had tried to put some yellow on and then some red, and finally I was just realizing it looked horrible. So here's what I did. Let's zoom in even more so you can really, I wonder if that's too close. Oops, put it on auto. There we go. And here's what I did. Actually, let me zoom out a little bit more. I just think, there we go. Here's what I did. I took this whole area, I wet it really well, and I let it sink in a little. I let that water kind of sink in, And then what I did was I took my number 6. You know what? Let me adjust. Let's see. That's, give me a sec here. I'm not happy with how that's looking this morning. Let me adjust. I just need to adjust here for a minute. Give me a sec. Okay, let's see if that helped. Okay, that's a little bit better. Let me tone down my light some. There we go. Much better. Okay, I just needed to make some color adjustments there. Okay, so back to what I was saying. So I wet the whole thing, and I wet it really good, and then I took my number 6 brush and I just brushed over and over and over and over. And it basically smoothed all those rough edges out, and I just kept doing that over and over and over again. Once I did that, I dried it really, really well. I mean, I really dried that thing. Then I took, let me put that brush down. Let me get the brushes or the scrubber brushes I was using. And here's what I did. So I used these scrubber brushes, these 3 right here. And what I did was I took this one, that is my oil brush, and I went over and completely scrubbed out these lines. I wet the line and then I scrubbed, but lightly. And if I saw that the paper was starting to lift a little bit, I'd let that one dry and then I'd go on to the next needle. So if you can really see it, what it did was, instead of just the skinny line, it helped move the line and make it look a little bit rounder and thicker in the middle, and then thinner as it got to the little blossom area. And then I was able to get it to a nice point. So I went around and I did that to everything. And now let me zoom out a little bit more. So you can really see now everywhere. Zoom in a little tiny bit. There we go. So you can see everywhere that I went over every single needle, every single one. That took a good hour and a half, I think. So I just scrubbed them all out, made sure I really scrubbed in the center, and just kind of built some roundness with those needles. And it looked so much better. So then what I had to do is I had to dry everything. And once I dried everything, and I knew that I had really gotten out as much of those needles as I could and really added some form and shape to them, then what I did is I went over the darker areas and I really built up some of those darks again. And I had to do that because as I went over it, it did kind of lift that very, very top dark layer. So once I did that, and then I dried everything, I took a plastic spoon. What I did was I pressed down over, just like this, over everything, and I flattened everything out. Show you right up here. So I just very carefully, I rubbed everything down that I scrubbed out. Okay? Scrubbed everything out. And then once I did that, I was able to take a very, very tiny brush. I mixed up some fresh, beautiful burnt sienna, and then, I had some really good yellows. So then I wet each needle, went over it with some yellow, and then I took some of that burnt sienna and I added it right at the blossom tip and a little bit at the tip of the needle. And so there you go. And look at how pretty it turned out in these darker areas. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Let me turn it. There we go. Okay. So look at what that did. So it made those needles look really thick and it made them look round. Whereas before they looked, oh, that was so horrible. It really was. And you know what? So actually I am looking at this as a positive thing. I think that it forced me to solve a problem, and it forced me to do it in front of you. And that, or, you know, at least when I made the mistake, I did it in front of you. And that honestly, that was a big thing, but it got me to fix these needles. And look at how just that center part, it really looks like the light is hitting where, you know, it's lighter. And then we've got those beautiful tips of the needles where they're dark, and yet you can still kind of see them all through. Let me turn this back around and go back there. Now you can see those up close too. So this was great. That was a huge thing. And I also want to add too, that once I put the color back on the needles, I then took my scrubber brushes and again, scrubbed out a little bit of that highlight. So believe it or not, I did a lot of scrubbing on these. So I'm going to zoom back out so we can see the whole thing again. And look at that. The difference. It was just amazing. And so now I might actually rethink when I go to do this again and I do it bigger. I don't think I'm going to worry too much. I might actually just leave those needles for last and scrub them out, you know, or maybe I might get a little bit right in this area of the masking fluid. So I don't know. I'm going to kind of rethink how I do that when I do it bigger, but just a huge, huge improvement. I'm actually happy with it now. I love how the end of the needles, I kind of curled them a little bit and added that darker color, and I think it looks really great. So let's see what the comments are about it. Hi, Teresa. Don't worry. Everything that I talked about, you'll get to see it as when you watch the replay. And Diana, thank you for the correction on the needles. I need to do that as mine looked bad. Your needles look so real now. Oh, they absolutely do. Now with that little highlight in the middle, they actually really stand out on the background. And look at this one right here. I didn't have those needles coming into the dark. And look at how, here, and I'll zoom in again. Let's see. You can see how I pulled that needle. There was nothing there before. So I very gently, and because I have this very, very, very thin scrubber that I cut off, I was able to kind of just lay it on its side and very lightly scrub it down and make a nice point. And same with on this one. So now that it comes into the black, it really helps, or that very dark value, it helps it just kind of give some forward, like more of a dimension. So, and then I the needles for some reason look a little bright on here, but they're not. They're a little bit less saturated. But, and then I added a little bit of that red in that back petal. I got carried away and realized I shouldn't have done that because we hadn't got to that part yet. But I problem solved, and you know, it really felt good. So I'm pretty happy with this. All right. So let's, before I get started, let's see if we have any more comments about that. And Diana says, so much brighter. Oh yes, huge. It was a huge, huge difference. And Shannon says, I didn't see the first one, so to do it differently, you wouldn't do them all until after the fact. Yes. Now that I know what I'm doing, first thing I would have done is been more careful, obviously, and we talked about that. I would have been extremely careful with the masking. Now, even with that said, the problem with that masking is it left super hard edges, and what we needed and what that scrubbing did was softened all those edges. It just softened everything, was able to blend out, and it helped to not only put some more detail in the background, but it softened everything. And that way, this flower is really, really, really going to stand out. So, all right. So let's enlarge this. Let's enlarge the center. I am so excited about this blossom. So let's zoom that in a little bit. And this way I've got enough room that I can kind of move it around like this as I am painting. All right. So what I did is I cleaned my palette. And let me put my scrubber brushes back. And I also want to point out that it may be that I don't get everything done in 2 hours on this, but that's okay. I'm gonna keep going. And then if I have to, and if everybody would like, what I'll do is I'm going to do another live stream on there so we can really concentrate on this center, because to me this center is really, that's the focal point. So yes, that's what I'm planning on doing. You know what, here's the thing, I don't want to rush it, and I don't want to keep myself and say, oh, sorry, I only said I was going to do this for 2 hours, up, we're done. I'm going to keep going. I want everyone to be able to see this finished. Okay, that's important. All right, again, I cleaned off my palette and I put some fresh color on there. So let's mix up some, shadows. And this time I want to just keep a little bit in the middle. I was thinking about this morning, is what I really want is for you to see that I don't just use those shadow areas. And hopefully if you were paying attention to what I was doing as I was pulling color and then bringing it over here onto those first layers of this blossom, was that I always, if I see something that's a little bit more yellow, I'll grab a little bit of yellow, or I'll grab a little bit of red, or I'll grab a little bit of that blue. So I don't just stick with the shadow colors that I've made. I just kind of move around and pick up what I feel is going to work. See, right now we've got kind of a minute ago I had a burnt sienna. I'm just picking up these colors. I want to make a lot because I may have had too much yellow, because I don't want to keep stopping and adding to this. So I know that looks pretty thick. So let's see what happens when I grab a little piece of paper. I'm going to put some water on here and then just pick up a little bit of that, spread it around. That looks like that's a pretty cool, almost a reddish shadow. Let's add a little bit more blue in. So now I've got some blue areas. Look at that. Oh my gosh. That's gorgeous. So I know that that's going to do really well in some of those darker areas. So I'm going to kind of keep it thick. And one of the reasons why is because I'm going to be really defining some of these petals now. So I think I want to start on this side, and I'm going to keep turning it around. I want to get those outer petals done first. Now, I did see somebody that had gone ahead, and I was looking at the petals on my watercolor group, and I could see that they had gone a little bit too dark. And darn it, I'm seeing that it's still kind of skipping a little bit. Diana, maybe you'll know why. I know that it's not live streaming because I tested it last night, and it was freezing a little bit, but not a whole lot. So I don't know, maybe you can help me figure out why. Although when I go to the Zoom, I will be using Minicam so that I can switch back and forth between my scenes. Okay, so anyhow, back to this. Sorry about that. Okay, so again, I'm going to be going around and we're going to be doing these outer petals. Now keep in mind, really look at that flower. That flower, those petals are white, yet the sun shining on them. You've got the cactus that's influencing the color from behind. You've got the sun coming down. So you're getting colors in these petals. But if you go too dark too soon, you're going to completely obliterate that glow. So go slow, build those layers slowly. And you don't have to put the color down exactly in the value that it is right away. Build them little by little. Remember, these are staining colors, so you get to do that. You get to build them just a little bit at a time so that you don't overdo those shadows. Okay, so, oh, good, Shannon, you've only seen one very brief freeze. Whew, thank goodness, okay. So maybe it's just me on my end seeing it. Okay, so now remember yesterday I actually did that, that petal, and look at how it's really standing out. Oh my gosh, I love it when it gets to that point. Okay, so let me zoom in a bit more. Okay, let me get that into focus, maybe just a hair more. And okay, so let's see. I just want to make another comment too here that I forgot to lighten my lines, and so you're going to kind of see my lines a little bit. But that's okay. That's okay. I'm just going to kind of work with this. And let me flip my image around, and here we go. So I feel like I got some really beautiful shadows in this area. So I honestly don't think I need to do any more to this one. Maybe right in this area. So I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is this is my 0. Come over here. I think I'm going to actually pick some yellow up and pull it over in this area. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow right there. Yellow along with some of that shadow that I just picked out. And you can see that it gave a little bit more depth to that area. So I'm pretty happy with how this looks. This right now is where you're going to see a huge difference in your painting once you slowly start building up those values and those colors. So I'm adding a little bit more yellow right in there. And I'm going to go ahead and leave that area and maybe just a little bit more yellow over there. Make sure it's blending out. I should have said too, I'm not wetting that paper again. So Okay, I'm gonna scoot this down and let's concentrate on this petal right here. This one is a little bit in front of it. And actually this one is behind that one. So let me do this petal first. Okay. This one is fun because it's a little bit dark. And remember when we ran around and we put those first layers on, it kind of helped us to define some of the areas. Let's see, where do I want to get some of that gray? I'm going to add a little bit of red. Okay, let's talk a little bit about shadows. So I've mixed kind of a heavier concentration of those grays, and I'm going to start adding water and pulling them out. And I've come over here and I picked up some red, and then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to pick up a little bit more blue and just yellow. Shadows have color and life in them. Don't make the mistake of Payne's gray and all your shadows look similar. Try not to do that. Add some life into them. Just like right there, you're really going to see your paintings come alive. Okay, now I'm going to leave that little area alone. I'm going to start, this one I am going to wet a little bit. Okay. Whoops. Whoa. Yikes. Okay, hang on. Let me get that back into... Ooh, got a little bit... Gotta be more careful. There we go. Let me move my... Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little bit of that color from this red area, because this area is kind of like a really dull burnt sienna. In fact, maybe I should just go ahead and make a little burnt sienna over here. That's going to make it too complicated for you. And I shouldn't have said that. It's not going to make it complicated, but it just takes a minute to mix up some burnt sienna. So let's do that instead of trying, oops. There we go. Let's do that instead of having you pull from over there. So I'm making a little area of burnt sienna right down there. And I think that looks pretty good. So now what I can do is, now that I've got water on this paper, I'm going to come over here and add a little bit of yellow. Now I'm going to come in with the burnt sienna. And I'm going to get an area that's kind of thick, and I'm going to pick up, oops, a little bit of that red. And did you see what I did? I kind of pulled down into the cactus and I made a little point. I'm rinsing my brush and I'm blending it out. I just rinsed my brush again. I'm just kind of softening that area. And I'm picking up more of that burnt sienna. Okay, so at this point is when you get to make a decision with your burnt sienna that you've just mixed. I'm like, it's still a little bit too yellow. So what did I do? I came over here and I picked up some red. Okay. So that's my thought process when I mix my own burnt sienna. Now I can say, ooh, right there, need a little bit more red. So let me get some red in there. And guess what? Up in that area, I just see a little bit more blue. So I just picked up some blue and I kind of pulled it down into that area. And I know I have a dot there. I'm not going to worry about it because I can see at the very end, I'm going to take some dry color and I'm going to go and add all those fun little interesting spots that you find on flower blossoms. So now I'm picking up a little bit more of that burnt sienna. I'm just going to get it right off the tip a little bit, so I don't want it to spread too far. And remember, I'm going from this direction back, and that's helping so that I don't get a big blob. And now I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know what? That needs to be a little bit more yellow. So I'm picking up some kind of thick yellow. Now some more red, some more of that burnt sienna. Back to some yellow. Now I'm cleaned my brush and I have a lot of water on it. So I'm going right up to the edge of that petal. And I'm kind of pushing some of that color away from that edge. And pick a little bit of it up. Now I'm going to come back up into that top petal. I just added a little bit more color to bring out that darker shadow. A little bit of blue, a little bit of yellow. Very nice. Ooh, and you know what? Now I see some red in there. I see more red. And this is the part of painting that I love. And this is another reason why I paint with 3 colors. I don't have to go and keep thinking, oh my gosh, well, if I use cobalt blue, will that be a good blue in there? What about ultramarine blue? What about indigo blue? Nope, I just go over. I know that these 3 colors work well together, pick up little colors here and there, and I just start adding them. Now, do you have to paint like this? Do you have to get this crazy and put in all these little tiny details? No, you don't have to do that. But, and again, that's not what I'm teaching you, is how much detail you put in. But, you know, what do you want this to look like? That's up to you. But how I do it and how you do it is going to be, it should be, that idea of picking up that color is the same for everybody, no matter whether you're putting in a lot of color or a little bit of color. I'm just roaming around, picking up the colors. And I know that I'm not worrying about colors getting ugly and muddy, because no matter what I do with these 3 colors, they're all going to work together. Okay, oh, and Diana, thank you about the freezing. She says, don't fret, it's been great. And you're mixing on the paper instead of just on the palette is great. Yeah, I did. You know, people will ask me, well, you know, how do you exactly paint? Is it wet on wet, wet on dry? It's everything. What it really depends on is what's going on with that area. Do I need a huge giant amount to drop in some background? Do I want to get a basic mix? I just kind of do everything, and you should too. Do what you feel as you're painting. Okay, so again, I said I'm doing all the very far petals. So that one, let's go ahead and get this little one finished up here. Now this time you can see that there's a ridge here and there's some gorgeous, very few white highlights in this. So I'm only going to paint this side. And again, I'm picking up some of that burnt sienna, and I'm going to pick up more yellow because I see a lot of yellow in this little area. Pick up some red. I'm going to come in and grab some of that dark. And look at that. Look at how it just glows. And that, to me, is what it's about. It's making those colors glow. And if you tried this with opaque colors, it would just not work. I rinsed my brush, adding a little bit more water onto the paper, just kind of moving that paint around. I'm going to pick up a little bit more yellow. And that's beautiful. That is turning out. I love it when you start to get these just darker colors put in, and then it just really makes everything else stand out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this side of the petal, but I'm going to stay away from that ridge, keeping that water away from the ridge. I'm going to thin that out a little bit and add some red because it looks a little bit rosier to me on this side. And that's what observing, really observe your image. That to me is just another huge part of making things look alive, look realistic. Let's add some yellow. And it is a lot of fun when you're mixing on the paper. It's amazing how the colors, especially when they're the colors that go well together, and you know how they're going to react with each other. And they harmonize. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to pull it down, and I think I'm going to switch and go back this direction, and let's zoom out and see what kind of a difference it made. Oh! Look at that. Oh my gosh, I feel so silly when I say it's like, well, you know, it's not like my painting's the greatest, but the happiness I feel when things really start coming together. Look at that glow in there. Now, I'm getting excited here, so let me stop a little bit. This may not be dark enough, but I don't want to go too dark. Why? Because I don't know how this petal and how everything in here is going to affect that petal. I want to leave that alone. I want to take it a little bit at a time. Go easy. Same within here. I feel like I've got some pretty good colors going on, but that's good for now. I feel like that's good for now. I like that it left that little ridge right there. I missed my point, but it didn't, I feel like it could be a little bit pointier, but I can always pull that out later with either my Dremel tool or one of my brushes, my scrubber brushes. Okay, Shannon, what size brush are you using while you're working on that petal? I am using a 0, a very tiny brush. Now, I know there are a lot of artists that say use the brush size that it's appropriate for the area that you're painting on. But honestly, I love using tiny brushes. I just get so much detail in there. Another artist I know that does that is Anna Mason. And I know people laugh about that, but I like my little brushes. Tanya, my line drawings do not look like yours. Okay, so make sure you have a good image. Obviously, mine look like this because I use a digital projector so that I can see every little detail. One thing you don't want to do, this is basically called a contour drawing. It's not a sketch. The last thing you want to do is take your pencil and start doing this. Don't sketch. take your pencil and very, very carefully lay down those lines. If you sketch, you're going to get completely lost. I even know one artist, Susan Bourdette. Love her. Absolutely love her. I took a workshop from her one time. She does the same thing. She traces out her image, then she sprays fixative on it. I don't do that because I feel like it doesn't allow the color to sink in, but she is so crazy about her lines that she doesn't want to lose them. So she'll even spray them with fixative. So before I get started on this one, let's answer some more questions. Shannon, I know it's observation, but the importance of leaving that little white area around the edge of the leaf is key to giving that petal thickness. I thought you might want to mention that. Oh my gosh, Shannon, I so missed you the last couple of days. Thank you. Absolutely. Leaving a little bit of that white, it helps add thickness to that leaf. Thank you, my friend. And Diana, Anna Mason does amazing work. I've taken a few of her classes. Your attention to detail is amazing, Debbie. Thank you. And again, if you don't want to put in all that detail, you don't have to, but I am the one painting and you're taking my class. So you're going to see detail, darn it. And Shannon is saying again, I tend to put too much detail in my outlines. No, Shannon, actually, there's the saying that it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So it's okay. You don't have to use every line. If you get to that petal and you decide you don't want those, then you can just take your kneaded eraser and just roll right over it and pick up some of those lines. So no, it's okay to have a lot of detail. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit more. There we go. Let's see how close I can get. There we go. Okay. Let me get my image moved over a little bit. All right. Now, I think my 0 is a little too small. So let's go with a number 2. And I am going to wet this a little bit because I don't want to get any of the color up into that little triangle. Why? Because it's a little bit wider, and that's going to help that background, that whatever's behind there, just really come through and really glow. So I'm just getting this edge. And again, you can see that my lines are pretty dark, and I'll have to fix that later. I really shouldn't have had them that dark. So just remember, when you start an area, take your kneaded eraser, roll over those lines, especially on something that that's really light valued. Okay, so I am going to pick up, I don't want really saturated yellow. I actually want that yellow to be a little dulled down. So I'm picking it up from this area of my my shadows. And remember, this one's pretty light. So now I'm going to grab a little bit of that red and I'm going to make it very thin. And I'm just going to drop in some red. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of that blue, just a tiny bit. Ultramarine blue is really strong. Okay, and even right in here. Look at how well those blend together. And now back to some of that red. Yeah, maybe just a little tiny bit more. And there we go. I feel like this petal I see a little tiny bit of an edge right there, which is good because we want to differentiate that from the way that petal is kind of folding forward. And then maybe a little bit more right in this area. I want to make sure I get it a little bit darker there so you can see that concave, convex, concave area. So again, a little bit more. I'm going to just knock off a little bit on the tip. Maybe a little bit more. Beautiful. Ooh, and I got a little spot right there, but I'll worry about that later. Okay, now I'm going to go back to a small brush. I think a 0 will work. And I'm going to pick up some of that dried burnt sienna. I'm going to pick up some yellow. And then there's some right along that edge. So now you've got that petal that's kind of curving up, and just a little tiny bit, some red, and a little bit of blue. Right along that edge. And you can tell I accidentally came into that petal a little bit, but that's okay. I can fix that later. All right, let's back it out. And those are really, really looking good. Okay, let's go on to this one. Ooh, and then I'm excited because then we get to do that really dark one again. I just, there's something about putting in values that I love, putting in those darker values. It just really makes everything start coming alive. So, this is kind of stripy. I'm not gonna put some water down. I'm just going to put color down right on the paper so I can keep those stripes. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of blue because it's kind of greenish. Now I'm going to pick up some pink. Red. It gets pretty pink when it's very thin washes. Now I'm picking up some very, very, very watery blue. Hopefully I said I was using my 0. Okay, back to some pink. And let's add some of that pink over in this area. One of the reasons why I'm concentrating on these outer petals is because everything from this center is helping to reflect, all those colors are helping to reflect into those back petals. So I really want that to come through. Okay, now let's add some more red to this burnt sienna. See, isn't that great when you mix your own burnt sienna? Is you're just adding and adjusting it as you go along. Okay, same thing. Constantly cleaning my brush. Now look, this area right here, it's absolutely perfect for the shadow I'm seeing right along this edge here. Just going to pick up a little bit more. And I think a little bit of yellow. Okay, now back. Look at how beautiful that's spreading out. This is just my favorite part, the painting. Okay, did you notice how I picked up red? And look at that. It just makes everything just pop. It's beautiful. And then I can come over here where I've made those nice dark shadows, pick a little bit of that up and just drop the saturation down a little bit, and it makes that nice, beautiful dark point. All from those three colors. I love it. I love it. Okay, let's bring some of this up. Okay, so I'm going to start up here and work down so that I don't make a blob of color, which was not enough. Okay. And you can keep adjusting if you think it needs more yellow, which it definitely does. Add a little bit of pink. Let's soften this area right here. I'm going to add in just a little tiny bit of that burnt sienna. What it needs, and I'm thinking that's a little bit too wet, I need to come in with some streaks through there. But if I do it right now, it's they're going to disappear. So I'm going to let it dry just a tiny bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and work on this one. And let's see. Shannon says, I love that you share your joy in your work as you go. Speaking your inner dialogue is helpful in so many ways. And for me, listening to this is a great way to learn. I'm a why person. Thank you, Shannon. This is why I missed you. And Sherry, your enthusiasm is contagious, feeling happy regardless of how this comes out. Right? And again, if anybody missed it, like I was saying earlier, somebody yesterday was like, oh, I'm too nervous or scared to try some certain painting. And it's like, okay, I'm scared. I get scared sometimes. But you got to work through that fear. And you know what? Think to yourself, what is the worst that's going to happen? That you have to flip the paper over and restart the painting? I've done that a ton of times. I was just scared and thought, well, I can't do that. Just try it. It's okay to be scared. There's a saying, the devil you do know is a lot less scary than the devil you don't. It's just a painting. Okay. Oh, look at how beautiful that is. Let's add a little bit more blue. I stayed in from that just a hair because I don't want that to bleed over, and then I'll just fill that back in later. It's just a hair. Let's thicken that up just a little bit. Ooh, gosh. Whew, that was a lot. Okay, well, just power through that. Just have to realize I'm making a lot of this. There we go. Let's add a little bit more yellow. You know, I have to tell you, I didn't have, and I'm not going to go into why, I didn't have a really great childhood, and I didn't have anybody leading me and telling me, you know, to just, yeah, everybody's scared, but you have to try things, you have to fail, and it took me a lot of years to stop being so scared of things that I wouldn't try it. Now, that's not to say, like I said earlier, that I procrastinate. Sometimes fear will get the best of me, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm not ready to do these live streams yet. But you know what? It's okay. Just put that color on there. Don't be scared to put it on there. Don't be scared to build those dark values. Again, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to have to repaint it, and that's not a bad thing, just like how I'm going to redo this. Okay, now let's back that out just for a minute so we can see. And look at that. Look at how that one little area it's just really bringing these forward petals out. It's just, I love it. Love it. Okay. Make sure it's clear. There we go. Now it's pretty clear. Okay. Now let's, okay. Zoom out just a hair. Okay. Now let's try this petal. Now, this petal is a little bit, I'm gonna have to think about this a little bit. So what I did last night was I went ahead and just wet it and just dropped in a little bit of color. Okay, here's how I think I'm going to tackle this. I don't think I am gonna wet this whole thing. So I'm gonna grab a little bit, I had some yellow on my brush, I'm gonna grab a little bit of this brown right here, and that's gonna really help me, and I'm gonna turn this just a hair. And then quickly, I'm just gonna put some water right over that and just soften that line up. Okay, and again, that's the other thing, and hopefully I mentioned that yesterday, is make sure that, turn your painting, make sure that when you're painting, your hand is I don't know what the word would be. Somebody help me out here. You want you want your hand to be comfortable as it's making a stroke. It's really difficult to paint at odd and weird angles. So not only does it help you see your painting with new eyes by turning it a lot, but it helps with your strokes. Okay, I'm still sticking with the 0, believe it or not. Now I'm going to go over here and pick up a light wash of that red, and I'm going to stick right in the center because you can see that there's some white area there, and I did lose that. I don't know how much yet because, you know why? I am adding more color, and I'm going to be adding a lot of dark on that edge, so I don't want to mess with some of these highlights yet till I see how the darker color is going to affect it. And to make that point again, let me find, did I put those away? I might have put them away. I was going to show you that little card that I had that shows the gray surrounding the white circle. So now I think I need a little bit of that blue. And remember, go easy. If you're not confident with figuring out how to get rid of too many color or too many dark colors, go light. Just take it easy with your brush. Take your time. So now, picking up some of that blue, and I'm going to pull some of that color out to those edges and make these little ridges. Just very tiny ridges. See how I'm doing that? Kind of put that one ridge up a little bit far, but that's okay. Let's see, let's add some, make that more of a purple color. I would say the only drawback to doing things online is that even though I work really hard to try to adjust my colors on the screen as best I can, I have no idea actually what you're seeing. How much are you seeing it? That's probably the only real drawback. Okay, just a little bit more blue. And look at how it kind of looks like that's really curving around. The only thing I want to do is just pick up a little bit more yellow and a little bit of that brownish color and kind of really get it in the center there. Now even more yellow. For instance, yellow, for some reason, it just doesn't look the same on the screen as I'm seeing it. Even though I, did graphic arts for a lot of years and I know how to adjust colors, sometimes it doesn't always work out as well on a screen. And again, I'll come back to that if I don't think that it's light enough. So now I'm going to go and use a number 2 aught. No. I'm going to use my 5 aught. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick up a little tiny bit of that burnt sienna and a tiny, tiny bit of that shadow color. And I'm going to turn it a little bit more again. Now some yellow. That's much better. Wetting my brush. Now I just have water on it. And I'm just softening that line. And there you go. Yay! Okay. I'm going to just adding a little bit more right down on that edge. Okay. That's still a little wet, so I'll just circle back around instead of wasting time drying. Now let's zoom back out again. And I think that's looking really good. I think what I need though, some thick yellow. I'm gonna turn this. Added a little bit more yellow there. Okay, now we're gonna leave that, and now let's go on to this giant petal right there. Let me flip my image. Okay, and let's let me pause here for a sec and answer some questions. Oh, Diana, we see good detail, and it depends on what device your students are watching on. Yeah, it's very true. And you also say to pause, slow down, and rewind. Or my friend, it's true. It's true. You just, we don't have to be in a hurry with everything, right? So logically, I know it's about water ratio. I don't know how you can dip into your paint and still come out with such a pale wash. Yeah, it's just something that just takes time to learn. Paint is actually really strong, especially watercolor paint. It's almost a big part of it, especially with good paint, is pigment. So, oh good. So Shannon says she's watching on her 13-inch Mac. And so you go through the different modes to see what's the best color and detail. That's a really good idea. I think that's a big help for people. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit more. I think I need to start actually and get this one finished. Because that one is actually in front of this one. So let's do that one first. And I'm going to go this time with my 0. And I don't remember if I did this while I was still filming last night or I did this yesterday. I added a little bit of that, just what I did there. I just don't remember. Okay, so maybe I can zoom in a little bit more. There we go. So that, you can see that the closer you get into that center, I'm seeing a lot of green. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of that blue, just very, very light amount of the blue. And a little bit more yellow, a little bit more blue, just a tiny amount, more yellow. And I think that is exactly where I want it. More yellow along this edge. And then you notice right there, there's this really pretty purple shadow right there. So I'm going to wet it now. Just wet that little area, bring it up into that yellow. I'm going to grab some of that. See how strong that color was? And I actually have it, oh, because you can't see it. It's actually pretty thin. And when I put it on there, it really, it was really strong. Now back to some yellow. Letting that blend out into there. And there we go. Very nice. Okay, back with just my brush. Going to pick up light wash of that red. we're at it, let's take some of that purple I made over there and some of that yellow. Now I'm making kind of a purplish gray. I didn't re-wet my brush, I just picked up some of that color. Now I'm needing a little bit more blue. And a little bit more blue. Now a little bit of that purple. See how I just keep going back and forth. Pick up some of this, pick up some of that. Pick up some yellow. I'm going to come up in here. It's looking good. More yellow. And a little bit of blue, because if you notice, or at least I'm seeing that this is a little bit green too. It's still reflecting back from that center. Let's add a little bit of blue up in here. A little bit more yellow. A little bit more blue. Now I'm going to take some of that purple again with a little bit of that gray. Oh, hold on a sec. Let's soften some of that color right there. Let's soften this a little bit too. Okay, I think this needs to be a little bit darker right in here. Now watch how I change. See how that's pretty cool? Well, I don't want to carry that all the way down, so I didn't rinse my brush, and instead I'm just adding a little bit of that burnt sienna. Now I'm going to dip my brush so I can grab some yellow, and then look what that did. So I went from that beautiful dark cool shadow and I moved it into a really warm burnt sienna area. And actually what this needs is a little bit of yellow up in there, a little tiny bit more of the blue, and then a little bit of that red. And then just softly blend it out with your brush. And look at that. Very happy with that. So now I'm going to do the same thing over right in this area. More blue. And I'm just going to kind of soften it. Blend it in there. A little bit more. Now, this is where I love it when my colors start drying out a little bit. Then you've got some nice dark areas, and then you can just thin it out as you need it. And again, I'm brushing from the top and heading down to meet that color, so I don't leave a blob of paint. And that's a little bit more. And back to some of that purple, which I've now used up. Very nice. I'm super happy with that. Now let me get just a little line right about here. And a little bit more right there. And then I'm just softening it. And let's pull this up and make it a little bit darker. Oh, I forgot to rinse my brush off. Okay. Ah, lovely. Okay, let's turn it around and let's see how we're progressing. Boy, you can really see it. That is just, it's a beautiful compliment to right over here. It's just all of a sudden, you can really see that those petals are just coming alive. Okay, so let's just check questions really quick. Oh, thank you, Violet. Well, I try. Thank you, though. You're very kind. Let's see. Let's see. There, now I can really see them. Loretta, I can see the progression really well. Love this demo, so informative. You're very welcome. I like to take notes. This is Loretta, and do your color tips for shadows as a reference on the printout. It helps me when I paint with the replay. You're such a good teacher. Thank you. I try. I feel like I'm getting better. I'm really starting to figure out how to talk and paint at the same time. And Tanya, yellow doesn't lift so easy and gotta head out. Have a great day painting, everyone. You too, Tanya. And that's the whole point of the yellow. It doesn't lift easily, so you're using that to your advantage. And that way you don't muddy colors. Okay, let's see where I want to go now. I'm gonna flip my image back around. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and build some back in there and right in there, and then I'll be able to come around and finish that one. So we're getting close. Okay, let me turn my image again. Okay, there's a lot of purple in this little image, this little petal there, sorry. Okay, hold on, let me zoom back in. Okay. And there we go. So I'm back to my 0. And have that little bit of purple. I'm probably going to have to remake it. And you know, there's so many different ways to do this. I mean, you could mix every color, you know, beforehand. You can mix on the paper, kind of like how I'm doing. You can do a combination. There's so many things that you can do. You can build layers of color, like, hang on a sec, I'm gonna roll up my sleeve. It's just kind of annoying me. You could do like Linda Stevens Moyer does, and she does one color at a time. She does her whole painting, her yellows, then she goes and does her reds, and then she goes and does her blues. And I have tried that, and it's really difficult to do that. But there's just so many different ways to paint. There really is. Okay, more yellow. This is such a tiny little area. Okay, and then now a little bit of some of the blue, and I picked up some of the shadow color. Now I want to pick up some more blue. some yellow. Let me mix up some more violet. There, that's what that really needed, was just a little bit of a darker value. Okay, that little guy is done. And now there's this petal. And so here's what I'm going to do. I am going to grab my number 2 scrubber. Just going to add water lightly. I'm not really scrubbing. I'm just trying to pick up a little bit of that color and smooth it out. Okay. Put that back, and I'm going to pick up my 2-aught again. And this time I'm going to start with a little bit of yellow. Now I'm going to grab some burnt sienna. Maybe a tiny bit of red. And some yellow. I'm going to try to go around that little white area. You know, if you can't get it, it's not that big of a deal. There we go. Now I have kind of a more of a blue-gray right there. Add a little bit of yellow to that. There's kind of a shadow going across . And of course, when I had all that problem with the okay, I'm gonna leave that one alone. You're not gonna be seeing a whole lot of it because it almost looks like it's part of the cactus because I was not paying attention to that little petal. So I think it's a goner. Okay. Now let's go over to this little guy. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of that violet I made over there. Lots of water. Now, it's dulled down a little bit because remember, that was the petal that I accidentally covered up and wasn't paying attention to when I was painting that cactus. That was a huge help though. Now let's go over, oops, I forgot to smooth that out. Let's go over to the burnt sienna. Oh, I should have been a little bit more careful there. I'll have to come back and fix that and scrub it out. it's not perfect. That's okay. All right, so we've got that. That's a little problem right there, and I'll fix that. Okay, so now let me scoot down and we've got that. So I think we've pretty much got all the back ones. Now we're moving around. Let me turn this around. I'm going to zoom back out and I'm going to hit it with the dryer, with my hair dryer. Let's put that picture around. Yep, I think I need to, now that I've turned it around, okay, that's better. Hopefully you saw what I did there. It just added a little bit more of that violet so it would make that back kind of really stand out. Then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now that I'm looking at it from the other direction, and more yellow. Okay, that really helped too. Now let's go back down there because that's dry. And instead of zooming in and out, I'm going to have to leave it like this just so I can quickly move around. Let's add a little bit of blue. In there to just darken it up a little bit. And more yellow. And let's pick up some of that dark shadow area. And there we go. Now that's really, that saturation level is really up. And let's hit this real quick. Okay. Better. Okay, fix that. Okay, now let's quickly get over here and let's get those beautiful little yellow streaks through there. A little bit more yellow. A little bit more yellow. Okay. I feel like this needs just a little bit more pink. Very pretty. Okay, now just a little bit and more yellow right along this edge. Okay, and before before I completely dry. I've got to come back and bring that line up a little bit. But I'm going to come over to this one, add a little bit more of that yellow. I'm going to get some very thin burnt sienna, and I'm going to make some lines through here. Then I'm going to soften them with some water. Okay. So far, so good. Let's add a little bit of red there with some yellow. Just a little bit more yellow right over in this area with a little bit of red again. Okay, let's stop and see. Okay. Shannon, one thing that really helps me is to recognize which shadows are to the shape of the petals, which will have soft edges, and the cast shadows, which will have harder, distinct edges. That is very true. I usually don't mention that thing because it's so complicated just trying to paint that I kind of forget. I forget to say that she's absolutely right. Sometimes it's just easier for me just to pay attention to what I'm looking at. But she's right. The petal folds have a little bit more soft edges, and the cast shadows, depending on how close, sometimes have, harder edges. Okay, let's fix this right here. Just darkened that up a little bit on that edge, and I think we're good. I definitely think this is going to need one more session to finish, and again, I don't want to rush it, but so far I think it's looking really good. Let's do that, and let's see what else. Julie, my needles look flat even with color variation. Also, when cleaning them up, I can see the lines even when matching the background color. Yeah, what you're going to have to do, and I don't know what paper you're using, but you are going to need to really scrub. And if you feel like it's just not completely working, then it's something you may want to consider that you might have to redo. But you know what? Send me a picture of it and let me look at it. And then I might be able to help you more that way. This would be a good example of why Zoom is so great, because we'd really be able to see that. Okay, now that part's dry enough. So let me go ahead and add those lines and then soften them. And a little bit of that darker value. And then water, and I'm softening with the water. And there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that alone. And okay, so far so good. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to work on that petal. Zoom it in just a hair. Oh, wait. I was going to dry this because I don't know. Yeah, let me get this completely dry so I don't bleed into anything. Okay, that's better. Oh, duh. I found those things that I was talking about earlier. So this was a good example of how if you are having trouble with your things, if it's looking flat, again, pay attention to your values. Look at how much wider that part of the paper looks than from here. And it's all because you're surrounding that with a really, really dark color. So just like up here on that petal and that, those value changes and that saturating that color makes a huge difference in your paintings. So keep that in mind as you're painting. All right, okay, let's tackle this big one right here. Now, let's zoom in. Okay. Okay. So remember when I was talking about the fact that here's the edge of the shadow and it's very soft. The shadow starts out kind of, it darker, and then as the shadow moves out, it softens, and that particular shadow right about in there doesn't have really hard lines. So my pencil mark isn't going to matter much right here, but it is right there. I'm not going to do anything yet. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish that shadow and fill in these colors. And then I'm going to get those little areas, and then I'll go back and I'll take a very soft scrubber brush and I'll soften up those areas. Okay, here we go. Let's see here. Oh, okay, I'm going to start out, maybe I can kind of pick up a little bit of that color, but it's not happening. Okay, so I'm going to start in with a little bit of some yellow, and then I'm going to pick up, reason why I'm picking up violet, because that's just the blue and the red. It just happened to be there and it was kind of easy to grab. That wasn't very, that wasn't a very good explanation, but okay. Now I want to really wetting this little area. Now I'm going to go add in some of the red and now some of that blue separately. There we go. That was much better. All right. And now I'm going to switch back to a bigger brush. I'm going to go with a number 2. And I'm not going to wet it. And I'm going to start up in right where all those little stamens are. Because that little shadow there is going to end up being, it's going to be green. So it was okay to go ahead and add the yellow there right now. And now I'm coming into the shadow. Now I'm going to pick up some red. Going right to the edge of the shadow, because again, I'm going to blend that out with a scrubber brush. A little bit more yellow, a little bit more red. Now, I'm going to start adding in the blue and the red. More blue. More yellow. Something was right there, so I might have to soften that up a little bit later. And more blue and more red. Look at how beautifully all those colors just kind of are starting to mingle. It's very pretty. Now I'm going to go back to a smaller brush. I'm going to go to my number 2 and I'm going to get some thicker yellow. Because I really want that to glow on that edge. Okay, I'm going to connect that shadow right there. There we go. That's really beautiful. Really what I should have done that petal area first. So now I am going to have to stop and dry that so I can finish the rest of that petal. Because it's going to be hard to kind of go on either side of it. Okay. So let's see. I'm gonna use my number 4. I'm gonna start out with some of that yellow. Very lightly. Yes, I'm going over that shadow too. It's dry enough. And see, it's not moving. So that'll help these streaks to come up in through that shadow. There we go, that's better. So quite yellow up there, a little bit in this area. And then adding some of that red and blue that are already mixed there, and now a little bit of the yellow, and look what that did. It just toned it right down. Same thing. Isn't that funny? I was lucky I didn't hit that area with water because I noticed this little fold. And same thing down here. Probably going to switch back to a smaller brush. Seeing red in this area. Okay. I'm gonna get my 2-aught and I'm going to pick up a little bit darker of a shadow color right there, which it's not picking up anything. Okay. I love it when you get to all these tiny little folds. A little bit of burnt sienna. It's amazing how just doing that one little thing really just changes the whole look of a petal. You can see that it's kind of folded under. Let's bring it closer over. There we go. Just kind of change the shape of that petal a little bit. Okay. Yellow. Let's get in a little bit of gray in here. A little more yellow. Yeah, we're definitely, what time is it? 9:46, yeah, or at least for me. So we're definitely not going to be getting to that center. So I think that center is going to have to be its own little live stream. Okay, let's turn it over and look. Let's zoom out. Well, it's getting there. It's taking a while, but it's getting there. Yeah, and I might, just for the sake of time too, let's see, let me flip my picture over. I'm trying to decide what I want to keep going on, and I don't think I'm going to need to keep flipping this over now. It's all pretty dry. I think I can go ahead now and work up into the top of these petals and finish getting those back ones done. I really want to try to finish getting all these petals done today. So I think what I might do is just today finish filling in and then just finish up those details. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stream again tomorrow. You know, and just keep in mind that you'll be able to watch it whenever, or I can stream tonight. I'd like some thoughts about what everybody would be a good idea for me to keep streaming. What hours, I mean. Okay, so I'm going to keep going right along. But I'm pulling some of this purplish color kind of off to the side there. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. And Where's my little scrap of paper? Oh yeah, that's going to be fine. If I need to add more yellow, I will. I'm going to come up here, and it's dry. My paper's dry. I'm going to grab for my red. And then I'm going to take my clean brush and just soften it out. Soften it out on this side. A little bit more red. Now that it's getting lighter here, let me tone down this light a little bit, see if that helps. I'm using very, very light washes right now. Oh, see, look at this. That gorgeous shadow right there is actually part of this petal, and it's part of that petal. So that's interesting. I wasn't paying close attention to that. Now some red. Okay. Let's add a little bit more color over into this petal. Back to yellow. And I think the other thing I'll do too is I'll concentrate on fixing any little problems here and there. Going to number 2. I'm losing some of my purple. Okay, let's I think it will help me, since I'm kind of jumping around, to keep it zoomed out a little bit. And that way you can kind of see a little bit better what I'm doing. See, so I'm looking at it, and because these petals are so light, other than that one shadow, and that petal that we have to do there. I think what I'm going to keep doing is just going around and just building up some of these, because these petals are super light. I'm not going to say they're done, but they're getting close to being done. So I think I'm going to go ahead and switch tactics here and just pick up very light and watery washes. I think what I was feeling is that as I'm going around, I just kind of really needed to back up a little bit and see the whole thing. And what's really going to pull this whole thing together is that center. Okay, I'm going to stop for a sec. So let's see. Diana says, I'd break the video at 10 as scheduled for those wanting to break it up. It would be great to continue today for me. And it's looking beautiful. It is. You know, normally when I paint, I take a lot of breaks, and I'm really kind of feeling too that I think I'm just needing to stretch, take a break, and then I think we're gonna have to come back and obviously do one more live stream. But I think one live stream is going to do it. I mean, we really took a lot of time and we concentrated on, let's back that out a little bit more so we can really see it. So we really took a lot of time to concentrate on those outer petals, which to me are just, they're stunning. And see, even looking at that, I can see that probably needs to be a little bit darker and a little bit darker in there. Of course, we need to get some darker values there and there, but all in all, I think what's really going to pull it together now is that center. And honestly, you're going to really see this this come alive. So yeah, I think for me, I need a little bit of a break. And I think once I start fresh on this, and if whoever is still watching, you know, I don't know what time you think would be a good time. So think about that. And oh, Teresa, you're right. Each petal is its own mini lesson. Boy, thank you for saying that. It's really true. So I feel like, whew, I feel like I crammed a lot of information in this, and just where we've gotten so far. But yeah, she's definitely right. Each little area it's its own little world. That's how I always look at it when I'm painting. So if everybody can give me an idea of when we would want to continue this, that would be a big help. I'm kind of talked out, and here, in fact, I'm going to switch to the front so everybody can see me. Hi, everybody. Let's look at it this way. But oh, see how it's different. Like my forward webcam is different from my downward facing webcam. So I'm actually going to do some work and adjust the colors a little bit, because now with my OBS being updated, I'm gonna take some time out and really adjust these colors a little bit better. So Sherry says, same time works for me. That works for me. I'm usually I really get going first thing in the morning. So, but I'm just kind of mentally a little bit tuckered out. I could tell as I was doing those top back petals that I was getting a little deflated. So, and 2 hours is a lot of time to be painting just at constantly. So if everybody's okay, I will start again tomorrow at 8. And it's a Saturday. And gosh, I hope as many people as need to can watch it. But again, it will be again a live stream. So, and Julie says next Tuesday morning works for me. That's gonna be tough, because I'm starting the peony live stream is gonna be next week, so I've got to get prepared for that. So I kind of want to get this finished this week. And Shannon's saying, I would love to come back today, but it might benefit you to post it another day when you can. Yeah, I could work on it tonight. I could work on it tomorrow morning. But you're saying tomorrow at 8 is great. I think that would be good for me too. Yay! Okay, Diana. That's what we're going to do then. We're going to go ahead and do this tomorrow morning at 8. And now that we've got all those tough dark values are in. So I think it's going to be a little bit easier. Those other petals are so light. It's not gonna take a lot of time. Most of the time tomorrow will be spent on the center. So and that'll be interesting to see what happens when we take off the masking fluid. So we'll see what's going on. And Julie says, thank you for the great workshop. Concerned about the background. I think what you were saying was that I took the time out yesterday to fix it, and good. Whew, everybody can. It seems like most people will do great with 8, and awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make sure I get this posted on my Facebook group so that everybody knows we're gonna come back tomorrow at 8 and get this finished up. Really, I guess I could have sped through this, but I'm really enjoying this one, and I want to make sure you really see what happens as that center flower develops, where I'm really taking some time to get some of those details in. And Shannon, take some photos of what you paint today when you aren't streaming. Process photos you can share, absolutely. And I think maybe what I might do is just maybe define some of those edges and the lines. I won't do a whole lot, but I really think what's important is that center. That's just going to make that whole thing pop forward too. So Diana, that gives me time to catch up. There you go too. So yeah, and again, we can rewatch it. You can even redo it if you want, but I'm really happy with how this is turning up. And so I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I will get all prepped and ready for us to start this tomorrow morning. And honestly, I just really want to say thank you so much for being patient with me and listening to my babbling and my thought process. It's interesting. I think for most of us, when we're in our own heads, it's that privacy. You're thinking to yourself how you're going to accomplish something, and most of us don't share that. So the fact that I am being more open and sharing it, that's big for me. So thank you everybody for following me on this really fun journey. And I'm even learning. I've actually learned a whole lot on this tutorial. So I will see everybody first thing in the morning. So paint and have fun, and I will see you in the morning.